Hello again. In a book published last month, which Lenny Henry co-authored, it's called The Big Payback, it is suggested that this country should give £19 trillion. That is to say 19,000 billion pounds to the West Indies. This is because hundreds of years ago, some ancestors of people now living in the Caribbean, in conditions of compulsory servitude. Before going any further, let's put that figure in context, because it can be difficult to visualize such enormous sums of money. Lenny Henry and other people, he didn't pluck this figure out of thin air, have calculated that reparations for slavery from this country should amount to £19 trillion. Annual expenditure on all purposes by the government is around £1.28 trillion, which is roughly a 15th of that figure suggested for reparations. So what it amounts to is that we should give every penny which we would otherwise be spending on health, defence, education and everything else for the next 15 years to Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad and other Caribbean nations. I will declare at once that I have a personal interest. One might almost call it a grudge about this matter. You see, when Britain abolished slavery throughout the whole of the empire, they realised that it would be grossly unfair to expect all those people who had bought slaves simply to lose their money. And so the government decided to buy every slave in the Caribbean islands under our control and then set them all free. This cost an astronomical sum of money, but was thought to be the fairest and most just way of going about things. The slaves would all be free and their former owners compensated. This cost the government at the time, in the 1830s, £20 million, which is equivalent to about £15 trillion today. They had to borrow that money, and it took almost 200 years to pay it all off. It was not until 2015 that all that money borrowed to free the slaves in 1833 was repaid. This brings me to my personal interest, which is that throughout the whole of my working life, I was helping to pay off that loan through my taxes. For over 50 years, I was paying taxes, some of which were still being used in 2014 to service that huge debt incurred by the abolition of slavery. Now it is seriously being suggested, not only by Lenny Henry, but also by the Church of England, various charities, politicians, and activists, that we should hand over 15 years' worth of government expenditure in order to make things right. The logic behind this escapes me. We have already paid. Don't even get me started on how much we spent fighting the slave trade, what with the Royal Navy patrolling the coast of Africa during the 19th century to deter slavers and so on. I never found Lenny Henry particularly amusing, but this latest book of his is the least funny thing of his I have ever set eyes on.